All right, thank you all for coming today. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Chief Thornton.
Here.
Chief Kenyon.
Here.
Jonathan Warner.
Here.
Kenneth Kirkland. Wendy Treadway.
Here.
All right, next on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the July 2024 meeting. Those were sent out. Do I have a motion to accept those?
I'll make a motion.
All right. We got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, roll call.
Kenyon.
Aye.
Warner.
Aye.
Treadway.
Aye.
All right, is there any old business anybody knows of? Any new business anybody needs to bring to the board? All right, Chief Phillips, will you give us the DFR monthly report?
For Decatur Fire, the emergency response or hot responses in the city limits, we had 303. 295 of those we arrived within 9 minutes, given a 97% fractile. In the PJ, there were 15 hot responses, and we arrived at 100% of those within 13 minutes. For your EMS report for the city, you have your handouts in front of you. There were 1,587 calls last month, broken down accordingly there by nature code. We had no time exemption forms submitted, so there was no action there. We had no reported equipment or vehicle failures either. Last month was the first full month of Decatur Morgan having service in the county as well as the city. So we've been working with dispatch to make sure how our data is collected and reported back to you. It's going pretty well, working off of beats. Decatur Morgan is in the process of purchasing ambulance permits for all of the ambulances that will be working in the county as well. That would give them the ability to answer calls in the city and be permitted in the city and function that way. So they're up to the standards to be permitted in the city. So roll calls, you see there's 0. So with everything I've just said, there's no way we can collect the data off of whether it's a county truck that responds or a city truck that responds to a call. So for the future, all we'll be able to document is if Limestone County or Hemsey or Coleman or Lawrence County responds in as a mutual aid response, which is still pretty common. Most of the time it is the Heart, so it would be like Lockhart responding into help, but we get help from Lawrence County a lot, sometimes Athens, Limestone, and so on and so forth. So the road calls in the future will reflect that and not reflect whether there's a county truck responding in as a road call. The flip side of that is we're still going to be able to monitor our fractile times, because obviously if a truck is coming from Soniford to respond into the city, they're not going to meet their 9-minute response time. So we're still going to be able to maintain the same standard and monitor the same apples to apples, so to speak, which in the past, honestly, if Lockhart responded in and met the fractile response time coming from Hartselle or Faulkner or wherever, usually they would be granted a time exemption if they met the 9 minutes, but practically that never happened anyway. But so just to give the board an update on how we're trying to monitor and collect that data, I just wanted to add that in, see if there was any questions on that.
So theoretically, it ought to help the PJ response.
We're absolutely seeing an improvement. I'm sure Ms. Wynn's times are going they reflect that in the numbers I've seen for this month.
Does anybody got any questions? Thank you, sir. Ms. Wynn.
So the July Decatur Morgan EMS report, we had in the city, the emergency calls, we had 325. We completed 288 within the time standard for 91% compliance. And then in the PJ, we completed 29 calls with 26 of those within the time standard for a 90% compliance for emergency calls. For For non-emergency in the city limits, we did 285, 273 of those met the time standard with 97% compliance. And then for the PJ, we had 20 calls that were non-emergency and 100% of those calls met the time standard.
Does anybody got any questions? Thank you. Does anybody else have anything that they want to add? I have a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Meeting adjourned.